Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's workshop. We're going to be talking all about how to win with local service ads, also known as Google Guaranteed. If you're already running LSA and you want to get more leads and more booked jobs, you're in the right place. Scott's going to walk us through exactly how to get the best result and really dial in what's working now with this powerful platform. Scott, you take it over.
Thanks, Becky. Hey, everyone. Welcome. So, today we're going to be talking all about how to win with local service ads. They're also referred to as Google Guaranteed or local services. This is something that's relatively established now. There was a time in the past when this was brand new, kind of like what's this shiny new thing called LSA, but now it's pretty well known. It's available in almost every market now. Type LSA into the chat if you've already set these up for your business. If you haven't gotten into these or haven't set them up, type no into the chat. That's going to give us an idea of where you guys are at with that. So if you have set them up, that means you've already done the background check, you've already submitted the insurance, you've got the account set up. What I want to talk about today is how to win the game. We'll talk a little bit about why you should be participating in local service ads and how it fits into your overall internet marketing strategy. But really, what I want to dig into is the meat and potatoes, right? Whether you're running it or you still need to get it set up, what are the small 1% changes, the fine tuned adjustments, the tweaks you can make to get an outsized results, to get more leads, to get more sales. I like to keep this as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions during the training, feel free to put those right into the chat and I'd be happy to answer those as we take a couple of quick little pauses, as we take a sip of water, something like that. I'll read those questions and then reply back with an answer. So to kick us off here, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, and I'll open the chat quick here. All right, we've got a little bit of a mix. Damien, LSA, Jennifer, no, Michael, no, Crystal, LSA. Okay, excellent. We got a little bit of a mix of people who are in it, people who have not set it up yet. So we'll kind of cater this to everybody for that. So local service ads is part of the overall growth engine for lawn and landscape companies. We're always thinking about on these trainings, how can we help you accelerate growth if you're a lawn or landscape company? How do you generate more leads, more sales, more revenue growth? That growth engine really boils down to three things, right? Number one, you've got to drive leads. Number two, maximize conversion. And then number three, optimize your results. To drive leads, there's a lot of different options, but they basically fall into three buckets. You've got organic, paid, and database. So organic, you're showing up in the non-paid listings. Paid, you're showing up in Google local service ads, Google ads, Facebook ads, YouTube ads. Database, you're marketing back to your existing client or prospect base, getting them to use you again or refer you to others. From there, we need to maximize conversion, right? We do that by making sure our website is built to convert. When somebody gets there, they're told exactly what to do, that next step to take, and we're converting our lead flow at the highest level possible. Your reputation plays a big role here too. That's the reviews, what people are saying about you on Google, on Angie, or other public sites. If you've got a better reputation, you're going to convert at a higher level and get better outcomes. And then ultimately, automation. In today's market, we can't just generate leads and follow up manually. We want to be using automation via phone, SMS, and email to make sure we've got speed to lead, to make sure we're touching our prospects multiple times, and to communicate in the way that they want to communicate. Today's customer would prefer to engage via text message, if they have that option. They'd prefer to book directly on your website than have to call in, wait on hold, and talk to someone at the front desk. Using that automation is going to give you a major competitive advantage. It's going to help you convert more of your leads at a higher level. Then finally, we've got to optimize results, right? That means asking, how much should we be spending as we grow? If the goal is to add another million over the next 12 months, are we giving ourselves enough budget, enough gasoline on the fire? What's our average cost per lead? And most importantly, what's our return on investment? Are we spending $1 and getting multiple dollars in return? And really, everything we teach at webSURGE Landscape Marketing fits into this big picture model. But what we're going to go deep on today is local service ads. That fits squarely under driving leads, specifically driving leads through a paid mechanism, which is exactly what local services ads are. I always like to zoom out for a minute, right, and look at the big picture before we zoom back in and get into the micro details of that key strategy we're going to talk about today. Throw a one in the chat if it's helpful to look at that big picture before diving into a super specific topic like how to run your local service ads. Throw one into the chat. All right, excellent. Getting some ones. So I want to acknowledge, you decided to be here today, and I know your time is extremely valuable. It's the most valuable asset you have. So I'm going to ask for your full attention right now. Let's turn off the cell phones. Let's close the Facebook tab if you've got it open. Let's just give this our undivided attention. I promise to keep this quick, productive, and full of clear actions and insights that you can take away. But for the next few minutes, let's stay focused. So what we're going to be talking about today, what local services ads are, where they're active, how they work, why you should be in if you're not already in. And then we're going to spend a bulk of our time talking about how their rankings work, and then how you can optimize your results to really capitalize on those lead opportunities that exist within local service ads. Quick intro before we dive in for those of you who haven't met us or haven't met me. I'm Scott Coullard with webSURGE Landscape Marketing. Our team has been around for more than 20 years, but long before I was running campaigns or looking at analytics, I spent about 6 years working on a lawn care crew myself. Early mornings, hot days, physical work, all of it. So I understand how this business works from both sides. As an agency, we didn't start out focused only on landscaping. Early on, we worked with a wide range of companies, moving companies, HVAC, roofers, manufacturing, industrial, business to business. But as we built and refined our systems, became obvious that what we were doing worked exceptionally well for lawn and landscape companies. And at a certain point, specializing just made sense for us. So since then, we've worked with landscape businesses in different markets across the country, and we've seen firsthand what actually drives those consistent leads and sustainable growth. Not ideas pulled out of a conference or a blog post or AI, but strategies that are going to hold up in competitive real world markets. What we're sharing with you today comes directly from that experience, the things we've tested, improved, and repeated across different companies. As we go, I'll walk through real examples so you can see how these strategies apply to your market and your business. And this is what we do, right? Our company, webSURGE Landscape Marketing, is a full service digital marketing agency for lawn and landscape companies. Our mission is to double the revenue of 100 lawn and landscape contractors. These educational sessions like this one today are a big part of that. I want to give you the information. I want to give you the insights so you can make those smart strategic decisions. If you'd like to talk with us about how we can work with you, how we can help you implement the things we're going to talk about today, we'd love that opportunity to chat. It's a zero pressure evaluation. We'll take a quick look at what you're doing today and say, okay, here's what you're doing. There's room for improvement. If you're watching and you're thinking, yeah, I'd love to have someone take a look at what we're doing and do a complimentary analysis, you can schedule that with us at wslandscapemarketing.com/schedule. Mark or Becky, if you could please drop that link in the chat, or you guys can always just scan that QR code, and that's an easy way to get there too. Okay, so let's kind of dive into this. What are local service ads? I promise to keep this part brief, this definition. If you go to Google and you type in something like lawn care near me or landscaper in your city, what comes up at the very top are the Google guaranteed results. That's what local service ads are. They're also referred to as LSAs. The main thing Google has shifted toward is putting a tracking number on those results and driving tracked phone calls to your business. And you only actually pay when somebody picks up on the phone and calls. They've recently re-added the option for form submissions too, and you actually pay a little less for LSA form submissions than for a phone call. But when we find working with our clients is that the lion's share of the opportunities still come through the tracked phone calls via Google Guaranteed. Now, Google puts their little stamp of approval on you for this process, for this platform, because they're going to do a background check. They're going to make sure you're legit. You might ask why, because with these ads, Google is putting their name on the line to represent your company on Google. So it's really important to them that they're showing good, high quality contractors, people with solid reputations who are going to show up, do the work, and not gouge the customer or rip them off. We'll talk a little bit more about how that feedback loop plays into your ability to show up at the top, because Google needs to feel confident they've got the right Google guaranteed companies in those top spots. So that's what local service ads is. When we click into one of these listings, you're going to see things like your phone number, details about you and your company, photos, reviews. We'll dive deeper into all of that later when we get to the back end of the dashboard. If this makes sense so far and you're tracking along with me, just type tracking into the chat. Excellent. Getting some trackings coming through. Thanks, guys. Okay, so why do local service ads even matter? Out of everything happening on the search results page, why does Google Guaranteed deserve the attention we're going to give it with this dedicated training? I kind of want to walk through that. So, based on recent statistics, 87% of customers use Google when they're looking for home services. That includes lawn and landscape services, even in this age of AI like ChatGPT. It's the number one place people go to look. And local service ads, Google Guaranteed, that's what comes up at the very top of the search results. Yes, you've got the organic results, the map results, the pay-per-click results, but above all of that, on both desktop and mobile, is Google Guaranteed. So if that's where your customers are looking and that's the top result you can obtain, obviously you want to be in that rotation. You want to be showing up for those results. You want to be capitalizing on that opportunity. But we've got to have a plan to win with those, right? At this point, LSA is active in all major markets. They used to only, when they first released it, it was just in a couple of the biggest cities in the US. But now all the big companies know about it. All the small companies know about it too. It's active in almost every market. And if it were just as simple as saying, hey, I'll pay the $30 per lead and show up number one, everyone would be ranked, right? But it's not that simple. There's a lot more that goes into making those successful. But kudos to you guys for being on here to learn those nuances and give yourself a fighting chance and that competitive advantage to help win the top spot in that rotation. So another really important aspect of this is local service ads have kind of shifted the dynamics of the search results page. It used to be when somebody ran a search for lawn care or landscaping company on Google, they'd maybe see a few ads, then the Google map was right up top. But now with local service ads in play, the organic results have been pushed down, the map results have been pushed down, and local service ads can actually even show ads right in that map pack that look exactly like the organic map listings. It's definitely changing how the search results behave and how customers find you. And what we found is you'll still get a healthy amount of calls from the map. And I'm a big believer that we want to drive traffic both organically and through paid ads. So don't just walk away thinking, okay, it's just local service ads. That's all I need to focus on. And that's not at all the case. Most of the highest quality lead flow still comes from the map results, the organic results. Local service ads has just added another layer on top. And yes, with their rise, the visibility and click volume for the traditional Google ads has eroded a little bit. So here's how these work. For those of you who have already done this, bear with me. This is going to be some fundamentals. If you haven't, it's good to understand. So step number one, you need to complete the local service ads application process. Google is going to run a background check on you, primarily you and optionally on your employees. We found that in most cases, you can just do it on yourself as the owner. You don't need to run background checks on every single crew member because that makes for a big headache and significantly reduces the time it takes to get up and running if you just run it on yourself. At one point, we used to think everyone had to get background checked, everyone who went to somebody's house, but that's no longer the case. If the primary business owner or even just a membership of the leadership team is cleared, that's usually enough to get approved and go live. They're also going to look at your business details, licensing, if you do things like spray applications, or if you're in a particular market like Baltimore, for example, they have a special home contractors license they need to submit, and Google's going to make sure everything is legit. Once you're approved, it usually takes 1 to 4 weeks, depending on how fast you get them those documentations and how backed up they are. You'll move into that pay per lead model, and that's it. You set a budget. Every time a call comes in, you'll pay for that lead. That's the basic framework. So we've seen the cost per lead for these range from $10 to $12 on the low end and could go all the way up to $80 per call. But on average, the cost per lead in the lawn and landscape industry, if you're looking at kind of all the services across the board, usually falls around the $30 cost per lead or cost per phone call. Google allows you to manually adjust your bid on those too. So let's say in your market, the average lead costs $15. You could say, I'm willing to pay 25% more to potentially give yourself a competitive edge in that rotation. I'll show you how that works when we get into some of those dashboard settings. Now, when you get into the setup process, you want to pay really close attention to the details. And this is where having an organization like ours that really understands the nuance can make the difference. We know how to make sure those little details are fully dialed in during setup. But one of the key things you're going to be asked during setup is, do you want Google to automatically set the bid, or do you want to manually set it? You can manually set the bid and then add a custom increase if you want to give yourself a little edge. It's like saying, hey, look, I'm willing to pay $35 per lead instead of $30 because I want to stay in rotation and grab more of those leads. All right, so how are you charged? Now, here's how that works. You set a weekly budget in the platform. So, as an example, let's say you're planning to spend $2,000 per month on local service ads. The budget is set on a weekly basis in the platform. So that's going to break down to about $500 per week, which means $71 per day. So then if your average cost per lead is $35, that's about 2 leads per day, 14 leads per week, or 57 leads per month. But here's what I need you to understand on that. Once your daily budget is spent, you're out of rotation for that day. So you want to be thinking, do we have enough budget to stay in rotation? Are we showing up throughout the day to get the lead flow we want? And one thing I'm going to suggest, all other things being equal, right now, the average cost per lead in these local service ads is going to be less than what you're paid through traditional Google ads. So if you've got a portion of your ad budget going towards Google ads, it may make sense to prioritize local service ads because the cost per lead is lower, the lead quality is similar, or possibly better because the homeowner chose you through the LSA profile, which has all of those verifications and little hoops you got to jump through. The number of leads you get may vary day to day. In our earlier example, you might get 2 leads one day, then 3 the next, then maybe just 1 another day. It's going to spread across the week, right? But in general, we recommend just open up that budget so you're not leaving leads on the table. You also have the ability to dispute leads if they come in and they're not valid. And this is a really powerful part of this ads platform that not other ones don't offer. So when you set up your local service ads, we define what services you actually offer and then what areas you actually serve in. If you get a solicitation or a lead from outside your service area, you can dispute it and that budget will be credited back to you. So you can go out and acquire another valid lead. You can look at all of this in the local service ads terms of service on their website, but the key thing to know is there are certain types of leads you don't have to pay for, so you want to pay attention. There's always going to be a certain percentage of solicitations, calls from outside your area, leads for services you don't offer. So you or someone on your team or an organization like ours should be listening to the calls through the platform and asking, was this lead qualified? If it wasn't, dispute it, get that credit back, make sure it's taken care of so you're only paying for those true opportunities. And so here's the feedback that we get from our clients using this. The average cost per lead, again, is lower than Google Ads. The quality of the lead is much higher than Angie or Home Advisor. And let's be honest, a lot of us have tried Angie or Home Advisor. You pay $35 to $50 per lead, and that lead gets sold out to dozens of other contractors. It's not just yours. Most of the time, it's like, wow, this is garbage. By the time you call, they've already hired someone else, or they're just price shopping. So that's not what we're seeing with Google guaranteed leads. They're higher quality, legitimate prospects, and they're reaching out directly to you, not getting sent out to a bunch of other contractors. Sure, they still may call around and check a couple of other companies, but when they chose you from the local service ads listings, it's because of your profile, your reviews, and the way you show up in the platform. They're selecting you, not just submitting blind information like they would on Angie or Home Advisor. Now, just like with any advertising, there's still going to be a few price shoppers, right? People calling around and saying, hey, how much do you charge for XYZ? That's normal. That's going to happen, but it's not the majority of what we see from local service ads. And then from a return on investment perspective, assuming you've got a solid person answering the phone, someone who knows how to convert those calls into booked jobs, the return on investment is great. And we're not just guessing, we're actually tracking these numbers, especially from our clients who allow us to connect to their financial system, where we can tap directly into their CRM or their QuickBooks. And we see, here's the lead, here's the cost, here's the actual revenue generated. And when we have that data, we're seeing tangible, measurable, quantifiable return on investment from local service ads. I just want to make sure you guys haven't had any questions. Again, feel free to ask any questions along the way. So here's why I think local service ads are a no-brainer if you run a lawn or landscape company. So number one, you're going to show up at the very top of the results, right where your potential customers are already looking. You only pay on that per lead basis. So it's not just like throwing out money and hope for a return. You're paying for real people in your market that actually call your office. The cost per lead, again, is typically lower than traditional Google ads. The quality of leads is often better than what you get from Angie or Home Advisor. Plus, with a lot of other ad platforms, this is true as well. You've got flexibility, right? Let's say your team gets booked solid for the season and you don't have availability for new projects in the fall. The beauty of this platform is that you can pause your budget, reduce your spend, and then ramp it back up when your schedule opens up in the spring, maybe March, April, depends on whether you're in the north or the south. So those are really the basic fundamentals of local service ads and what we're seeing play out in the marketplace right now. So how do you get it set up? Let's kind of walk through this. There's a couple of different ways to get started. If you're a client of ours, we just help you with this directly. We'll assist with the background check process. We'll walk you through every step to get set up the right way. But if you want to do this on your own, you can set it up by going directly to adwords.google.com/local services/sign up. That's kind of a long link and hard to type down. If you just Google something like sign up for local service ads or sign up for LSAs, you're going to find the right place. You'll land on the right page. So it's a self setup process. Once you get in, it's going to walk you through entering your company information and then initiating that background check process. That's the setup. Let's talk about how the rating works, because now we're getting into the more advanced side of things. At this point, we all get the LSA is a strong strategy, but the real question is, how does it actually work? If there are 72 other lawn or landscape companies in your city, and there's a lot more than that in most markets, how do you make sure to show up in those top 3 results? Number 1 is proximity. Google wants to show the contractor closest to the actual customer's location. Where your office is and where the customer is searching from matters. Now, I get it. Sometimes proximity doesn't reflect your actual service area, but that's just how the algorithm works. And that's the game that we have to play. So in most cases, it's going to make sense to look at where your physical office is located and ask, do we need to set up another office location to be closer to the areas we want to serve? There's lots of dominoes that come into play at that decision, obviously. If you go that route, you want to make sure it's a legitimate commercial office that can be verified on Google. You'll need another Google business profile for that location, citations, which are just website references to your business at that location, local authority. It's work, but it can really boost your reach and your lead volume with that additional location. Setting up multiple non-overlapping locations can increase your chances of showing up in more areas. This can only work having a location physically close to where most of your customers are searching from those demographics. Number 2 is your Google reviews. Both the total number of reviews and the frequency you receive reviews matters. So Google gets all of your reviews for LSAs from your Google business profile. When you set up local service ads, you actually attach your Google business profile to it, and all of your existing and future Google reviews automatically get synced with local service ads. So reviews are mission critical. They help you rank better and convert more leads because people trust businesses with a strong reputation. And if you have local service ads set up and your address is properly set up and is near your customers, and you're still not getting any leads through the local service ads, getting a big helping of reviews quickly and consistently can help you break into the LSAs in your local market and start getting those calls. So number 3 is your responsiveness to customer inquiries. This is a big one, and where a lot of lawn and landscape companies don't realize this and they fall short in the platform. So let's say you're running LSA and leads are coming in, but they go to voicemail, nobody answers, the call gets routed to an answering service. Google is tracking that. They know how responsive you are, and they actually favor the companies who are consistently answering the phone. And we recommend having an 80% answer rate to remain competitive. So 10 calls come in, you should be answering at least 8 of those. Ideally, you're answering 10 of those 10 calls, right? But if you're not answering the calls, Google is going to take you out of that rotation for the LSAs. The second part of responsiveness is what happens after the call. So the lead goes to your LSA dashboard, and then Google wants to know, did you book the job? Did you schedule an estimate? They're waiting for you to mark the outcome of that lead in the platform. So whether it's you, someone on your team, or a company like ours, someone needs to listen to every call because they're actually recorded through Google local service ads. You got to mark the outcome in the dashboard and then keep that feedback loop going. Google wants to send leads to contractors who are answering the phone, track what happens, and then let Google know if the lead turned into a job. And that's who they see as the best experience for their customer It's in Google's best interest to keep pushing the leads to the contractors who are processing the leads most consistently. Crystal has a question here. I've noticed a lot of the Google calls when we're running these ads were flagged as spam, which caused an answering issue. So that's a great question. I talk about this a little later, but there's a great way to kind of get around some of the spam. So there's a couple different techniques. Number one, we found if you can attach a call recording system outside of local service ads into local service ads. For example, one that we often use is called Call It Rail. Basically, you can use tracking numbers on your website, tracking numbers in your ads, and it gives you the capability to do different things before the call is tracked. So if somebody calls in, you can set up a system that says, hello, press one for sales, press two for service. That'll take care of a lot of spam in all sorts of different channels, whether it's organic, local service ads, or what have you. The other approach is if you go through your leads in LSAs, you can click into them and you can tell which type of service they submitted through. And what we like to do is kind of scan the different services for the different leads. And oftentimes there's one service that's driving the lowest quality leads or the spam leads. You just turn that service off. Like there's under landscaping, top level category, there might be a subcategory of other. If you turn other off, you might stop getting some of those spam things. So I would definitely look into those, Crystal and Damien. Thanks for asking that, guys. The other thing that will impact your ranking are your business hours. So let's say your office is open 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. You only want your ads running during that window. That's fine, but just know at 5:15 p.m., if someone searches your services, you're not going to be in rotation for that. So here's what we recommend. Obviously don't have your ads running if someone can't answer the phone, but we would suggest making sure you have a mechanism so the leads can be answered any time of day. And what we find is that most lawn and landscape contractors, they set their ads to run during normal business hours, let's say 7 to 4. But we've seen that a lot of homeowners actually search after hours. And sometimes you're going to get your best cost per lead after hours. They just got home from work. They're ready to deal with that lawn or landscape issue they noticed, or finally have time to call about that outdoor lifting space they want to build. The wider your availability, the more chances you have to show up and capture those leads. But be strategic with this too and be wise. If there's no one answering after hours, you're going to waste your money and hurt your responsiveness score. But playing the balance between, can we answer it? Can we actually solve the problem? And can we extend that open time on the Google platform? Ranking number 5. Finally, the other thing that's going to impact your ranking is if Google receives serious complaints about your business. If somebody says they never showed up, they damaged my property, they ripped me off, that feedback goes directly to Google, and it's absolutely going to affect your visibility in local service ads. So keeping your reputation strong and growing, your response time fast, and your customer experience is essential. ATD Landscaping asked, how does this work with an AI receptionist answering calls? That's a great question. So in local service ads, if you have them set up, I would take the opportunity to listen to the calls, or if you are able to listen to those calls anyway inside whatever receptionist platform you have, just make sure the experience is good for the end customer. And if they're having a good experience and they're booking the job, they're interacting, Google is going to flag that as being a positive experience, and you're not going to run into issues with that. It's only going to be if they're calling the AI receptionist and getting really ticked off at it, Google is going to see that sort of a negative sign. And let's face it, I love this question because AI receptionists, that's going to be a huge thing in the future. And it's going to just be part of normal business. And people are going to get more and more used to it. So Google is not going to penalize us for just having an AI receptionist. Think of it like any employee. If you have somebody who's grumpy, constantly answering the phone, hello, this is Bob Smith's Landscaping, versus, hi, this is Bob Smith's Landscaping. How can we help you? That is going to change somebody's customer experience dramatically. So kind of look at the AI receptionist, as you would like a normal employee. Great question. So that's the high level view of how the ranking works. Let's get into the specifics next. What you need to be doing to win with local service ads. I'm going to walk you through this step by step. So number 1, we've got to dial in the profile. After your background checks are approved, you'll have access to your LSA profile. That's where you'll see your service area, your budget, the types of services you provide in Google's pre-selected categories. Number 2, we've got to mark our jobs right. We've got to close the loop on what happens after a lead comes in. Number 3, we've got to deal with our disputes. If you get leads that are outside your service area, spammy, not relevant to what you offer. You need to dispute them so you're not wasting budget. So I know we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier with the question. Make sure that you're disputing them. I'll get more into that in a little bit here too. Number 4, we've got to drive those Google business profile reviews consistently. And with these reviews, we found that frequency matters more than total number when it comes to your local service ads. So if you're only at 20 Google reviews for your company, but you're getting 5 new ones per week, you're going to be better off for local service ads than somebody who's stuck at 100 reviews with no new ones coming in. So if you're in a market with somebody with 100 reviews and you've only got 10, if you start to get a lot very quickly, you're going to be able to surpass them in these ads. Number 5, I mentioned this earlier, but it's important enough to mention again. We should be targeting an 80% answer ratio. Super important. And you should answer 100% of your phone calls, but at least 80%. Otherwise, you're going to get dropped out of these local service ads. So let's get into the specifics about each of those points. Step number 1 is dial in that profile. After you go through the little hoops of submitting your background check, Google's going to give you access to their dashboard. From there, you can enter all kinds of data, description of your company, photos of your crew. You want to load those photos up, right? Make sure your description sells why somebody should choose you versus the competition. Make sure you've chosen the right categories. Make sure you set the right schedule within the platform. So open your budget up if you have the capacity. And this is really important. So I kind of want to spend a bit more time on this. What I mean by open your budget up is these are going to be some of your most cost-effective leads. If you're spending money on other forms of paid advertising, like Facebook ads, like traditional Google search ads, your cost per qualified lead in those channels are usually higher than local service ads. So you typically want to prioritize spending as much as you can in local service ads and then take the leftovers of your ad spend budget and put it in those other platforms. We find in some markets, you just can't get local service ads to spend enough. It's producing some high quality, low cost leads. But since there's only 2 to 3 spaces available, even if you set your budget really high, you may not spend all of it. That's where supplementing with the other platforms, the traditional Google ads, the Facebook ads can help. Set up your business bio. You want to think about this from 2 perspectives. Number 1, you want to include some keywords, right? But talk about the services you provide. More importantly, though, you want to write it from your customer's perspective. Make that bio almost like a sales letter. Tell them why they should choose you versus the competition. Explain the benefits of using your company. Address the actual problems they're looking to solve. Don't just put, we do lawn and landscaping in city. Instead, write a detailed description, like you would on your homepage. Use all the characters Google allows. And then I mentioned this earlier, be strategic when selecting your job types. Pick things that are directly related to what you do and then very specific to the services you offer. Spend the time to get those right. In the platform, I wanted to get into this again. You can actually track which leads are generated by the individual job types you pick. So you want to pay attention to those over time. We've seen some of the job types produce lower dollar leads, one-time mows, really small projects, or spam leads like we were kind of talking about earlier. If you're watching those job types or you have a company like ours watching those for you and you're turning off the poor performing ones, this is a great way to turn around your account and improve the lead quality through local service ads. Next is your service area. So with this, you can choose your service area by city or by zip code, and one or the other is effective in different markets. But the main thing is you don't want to do both. Picking both cities and zip codes, for whatever reason, sends a confusing signal to Google and it makes it kind of mess up the profile. So choose one approach. Either select the cities you operate in, enter the specific zip codes you want to target. We've even seen on poor performing counts, let's say you started with zip codes and you're not getting any leads, you can switch to cities, and sometimes that kicks the platform into gear. If you don't have an area selected, Google isn't going to show you in the rotation for that region, and that means no leads, right? Update your business hours. Talked about this a little earlier, so I won't go too deep, but if you can show yourself available between 7 and 10 p.m. instead of just 7 to 4 p.m., there's a whole window of opportunity you can tap into. A lot of people are searching after hours. If you can answer those, think about that when updating your ad schedule. Then again, add photos. Google gives you the option to upload pictures of your team, your trucks, your office. There's a couple of gotchas in the photos. Number 1, you want to use personality-based imagery, just like we recommend for your website. People want to do business with people they know and trust. So use real, authentic pictures of you and your team. Number 2, this is a big one. Don't include phone numbers in those images. If you've got a picture of your branding with a phone number on the sign, or maybe on somebody's shirt where the phone number is really big, those images will get flagged, and Google might either remove the image or actually flag your whole listing and shut it down. Why? Because Google wants to make sure every call goes through the platform so they can actually charge you for it. Because if somebody called through a number on a shirt, Google wouldn't be able to charge you for that. One more thing on pictures. If you have a stalled out account, kind of a weird tweak you can do is add a couple batches of pictures per week, like 5 pictures per week, and sometimes that can actually kick an account into gear too. So that's what we do when we set up the profile. There's lots of little details, right? That's why it makes sense to have somebody who knows what those details are, someone who can help make sure everything is either set up correctly or optimized. And just to be clear, there's no reason you can't go back to the profile after it's set up and make it better. You can always dial in the description, refresh the pictures, fine tune the service selections. Once the profile is live, the budget is set, and things are humming along. Step number 2 is we've got to mark the jobs complete. What happens with most contractors is the phone rings, the receptionist answers, the call either gets dispatched or it doesn't, and then that's it. No one follows up in the LSA dashboard. Nobody goes into the platform to pull up that lead and mark the outcome. And this is one of the simplest things you can do to get an edge. So either assign someone on your team to handle this, or let a company like ours listen to the calls and mark those outcomes for you. We'll tell you right now, if you're not answering the calls and properly documenting the outcomes in the platform, it's going to negatively impact not just your conversion rate, but also the customer experience. And that's going to negatively impact whether Google wants to keep sending you those calls. And you'll slowly start to fall out of the ads, and the LSA leads will stop coming through. But if we're listening to the calls and marking the outcomes, we can say, all right, that was a qualified lead. Let's mark it as booked. That closed looped process gives Google more confidence that you're the right contractor to keep showing. So Google is going to rate you based on your responsiveness. You want to mark the job as booked or scheduled, add the customer details. That includes the email address. You might ask why, because Google wants that data and can use that to improve the delivery of your ads. Then you want to archive the non-converted opportunities. Obviously, not every call is going to turn into a booked job. You're never going to have that 100% conversion rate. Some people won't book, some won't be a fit, but we don't want to just leave a pile of open, unmarked jobs sitting in the system. Every lead should either be marked as booked or archived if they weren't converted. And of course, if it was a bad lead, we want to dispute it. Which brings us into number 3. We've got the profile set up. We're marking the jobs and outcomes. Number 3 is we want to deal with the disputes. And in this day and age, in 2026, Google is actually doing this a little more automatically now. You used to have to manually dispute all of the poor quality leads, but Google is taking care of that more actively on their own now. So rather than dispute the leads, you rate the leads. If Google hasn't already refunded a poor quality lead and you give it the lowest rating, Google might look at it more closely and refund it like it was a dispute. So when I'm talking about disputing leads in this training, I'm more or less talking about the new rating system. What we usually find is there's at least a 10% dispute ratio on the leads that come in. These are leads that were outside the service area, not qualified, or solicitors calling the LSA number, someone trying to sell you something. And if you're not paying attention and disputing those, rating them negatively, that's a missed opportunity. And you're paying for leads that you're never going to convert anyway. So you or someone on your team should be going into the dashboard, pulling up that specific lead, listening to the lead quality, and then giving it a rating. You can also type in a brief reason why it's a low quality lead, like outside of the service area, not a real lead, etc. And for the most part, Google won't question it. They'll give you the credit back. So the types of leads you should be disputing or rating negatively, let's talk through those. Obviously, if it's a solicitation, someone reaches out to you trying to sell something, you're not going to get charged for that. Make sure you rate that low in the LSA portal. If the lead is outside your service area and you tell them that on the phone, Google won't charge you. If someone reaches out for a service you don't provide, something like bulk mulch delivery or driveway paving, like asphalt driveway paving, you won't get charged if you tell them you don't provide that service. And finally, the primary way Google accepts or disputes for low quality leads is through their AI listening to your calls. So it's extremely important for you to be very clear and concise when you're speaking with the lead, with why you can't serve them, whether it's, hey, we don't serve you, you're way out of our area, or something like, sorry, we don't do lawn maintenance and mowing. If you can end the unqualified call within 30 seconds, you have the best chance of getting a refund for that unqualified lead. After 30 seconds is when Google LSA will start to charge for the call. So number 4, if you really want to improve your chances of staying relevant in local service ads, you've got to drive reviews to your Google business profile attached to your local service ads. Again, frequency of reviews is a major driver of your ranking in LSA. How often you receive reviews for LSAs is more important than the number of reviews. Number of reviews is more important for like your map listing or organic results. Speed to reviews is more important for your LSAs. Obviously, you want to provide a great service like always. You also want to leverage review automation to drive more reviews on autopilot. You can use platforms like Nearby Now, Review Buds, Nice Job, Jobber, and other platforms have some of those built in. Ideally, though, you have something connected to your CRM or financial system that's going to send out a Google review request automatically when a job is marked as completed or paid. Number 5, again, we want to target that 80% answer rate. If you're not answering 80% or more of the calls that come through LSA, Google is going to pull you out of the rotation. You should be answering 100% of your phone calls Google is sending you. But if you're not answering the calls, Google's not going to want to send you leads your way, no matter how much money you want to throw at them. The other thing I want to talk about is how do we increase our lead flow? Because sometimes you hit a wall, it's working, you're getting leads, but not as many as you like. Here's a few things that you can do. So increase the budget. Other things being equal, again, if you got $1,000 a week budget, which is $4,000 a month, you might be missing leads simply because your budget can't keep up with demand. There's 2 schools of thought on increasing your budget. One is to throw out a massive number, like let's go to 100,000 a month and see what happens. But the other, which is what I recommend, is just double your current budget. So if you're at 1,000 a week, bump it up to 2,000 a week, and then watch it real close and see what happens. And then keep doubling from there if you keep hitting where you want to go. As long as you're getting a return on investment and you have the capacity, doubling incrementally is a smart move. So next is expand your service area. Let's say you've selected 7 zip codes. If you could serve 15, expand to 15. But just remember with this, again, proximity matters. Where your office is located impacts your visibility. You want to expand the job types. If there's additional services you offer but didn't select, go back and add those in. And there's some categories that you might not think of, like for drainage, there's different categories, or there's other categories even under just general construction that would apply to landscapers. Check those out too. Expand your schedule. If you're currently showing ads from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., try extending that to 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Again, when you're in the rotation longer, you've got more opportunity to be seen and called. Sometimes we know we could serve a much wider area, but Google won't show our LSA listing because we're outside of that proximity range. In that case, consider setting up another Google business profile, use a real commercial address, validate it with Google. Now you've got another pin on the map closer to where people are searching. We've seen this work extremely well, as long as you're not overlapping service areas. And you'd be surprised at how cheap a commercial office can be if you find the right kind. Next up is close out every lead. We've talked about this. Make sure every lead is either booked, scheduled, or archived. You want to request reviews after every job. Remember, recency matters. If you book the job today and it's completed today, try to get the review today, not a week from now. Your crew can have a little business card with a QR code on it and ask your customers to scan that after the visit to leave a review. And that QR code can take them right to leave a Google review for you. Staying consistent with that makes a big difference. You can follow up with a review automation to help support that too. So I know we covered a lot today. I talked about the key things you need to be doing in order to win with your local service ads. Let me know how I did in the chat on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being, wow, this was terrible, 10 being, this was solid, I feel clear, I've got a couple actionable takeaways I can go back and execute to play better, to win more with local service ads. Or maybe you're not running local service ads right now and you're going to go set them up. Again, if you guys want help with this, we'd love the opportunity to help. Ideally, you got some great insights from the training. That's why we do these. Some solid information you can take and implement. But if you'd like help, if you'd like help with your online marketing, if you'd like us to look at LSAs and the big picture for you, what I would suggest is let's schedule a complimentary review. Here's what we'll do on that call. We'll look at your website and your local market. We'll run a ranking report for you, show you how you're showing up for the most important keywords, evaluate your paid strategy, see if there's any gap in your LSAs or untapped opportunities. Then we'll map out a plan based on where you're at, what your goals are, what that next level looks like for you. A couple of things could happen from this call. Maybe you'll say, this is a great fit. I'd love to have you do it. Awesome. We'd love to help. Or maybe you say, I'm happy with where I'm at, but I got some good insights and ideas to level up my game. That's great too. Either way, the audit is completely free. It's not a high pressure process at all. We spend at least an hour in advance doing the due diligence. So it's a high value thing we can provide for you. If you're interested, go to wslandscapemarketing.com/schedule or just scan that QR code. Give us a few details about your company. Take a time on the calendar that works for you. We'll do the prep work, hop on a call, walk you through it. Mark or Becky, if you haven't done it already, could you please drop a link in the chat? That would be helpful. I'm going to check out the chat. 10, 8, 9. Oh, thanks, guys. You guys are great. Excellent. Thanks for the feedback, guys. This was all we had for you guys today. Next month, we're going to be doing another training, so stay tuned. Watch your emails for that. And we're looking forward to see you guys. Thanks for being on. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you guys real soon. Bye now.